What's going on? Welcome to Tech with Sean, and today we're taking a look at the Gigabyte M28U. Okay, the M28U is a new release monitor from Gigabyte, and it's 28 inches, 4K, 144Hz, IPS, it has FreeSync, it's G-Sync compatible, it does HDR 400, and it has HDMI 2.1 for your new consoles. This has a sticker price of $599 in the US, which makes it way cheaper than stuff like the LG, the 950 27-inch 4K. This has some of the similar features. That has, I believe, HDR 600, this has 400, and this doesn't have any local dimming or anything like that. But for a lot of people, if you just want 4K, high refresh rate, and you want to be able to plug up your PS4 or your PC, this is going to get the job done for a lot less money. Going through the specifications from Gigabyte, they say this is a 28-inch super speed IPS. It's an edge-lit panel, so it's not mini LED or anything like that. It has 94% DCI-P3 coverage and 120% of sRGB. 4K resolution. The brightness, it says it's 300 nits. And the contrast ratio is 1000 to 1, 1 millisecond response time, and over DisplayPort it'll do 4K 144Hz, or over HDMI, and for console games it'll do 4K 120Hz. Now I've heard that over HDMI for the consoles this is going to have chroma subsampling and run at 420. On your PlayStation consoles, I believe they call that like YUV 420 or something like that in the HDR settings. It has two HDMI 2.1 ports and one DisplayPort 1.4 that supports display stream compression. It has a headphone jack, and it has two crappy built-in speakers that I would only use in case of emergency. It does have some other features they list. It has OSD Sidekick. I think that's a Windows app that lets you run the OSD options, with a mouse instead of having to use the little nub on the back of the monitor. Something called Aim Stabilizer Sync. It has a black equalizer, and what that does is the more you lower it, the deeper it makes the blacks, but the more it crushes the detail in dark areas. Something called Dashboard. It has some crosshairs you can bring up, a timer, a counter, auto update. This series of monitors has a KVM switch built in, so you can basically hook your keyboard and mouse up to the monitor and then run multiple systems to it, and then you can control those systems all through the same mouse and keyboard. It's a pretty cool feature, but I'm not really sure how much I personally would use it. For calibrating the monitor, you do have 6-axis color control, and that basically lets you change, I believe, the yellow, magenta, and cyan independently from the red, green, and blue channels, and that can just help you, fine-tune the calibration some more if you want. And that's pretty much it. It does have height adjustment and tilt adjustment, but no pivot or rotation. It is a pretty decent little stand though, and it doesn't take up too much desk space. That's enough about the specs though. Let's see how this thing performs. Unfortunately, I am moving in like a week and I have all my stuff packed up, so I don't have a PS5 to test with for the HDMI 2.1, and my RTX 3080 PC is boxed up in my garage right now. So all I can do for now is hook my laptop up to it and we can see how stuff looks. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to test the high refresh rate stuff because I only have a regular HDMI out, and we're going to be running it at 4K 60Hz. That said, it does look really good. The colors are nice and crisp. I did some adjustment in the OSD to get it looking the best for my room and my setup, and I'm pretty happy with it for an IPS panel. If it has any drawbacks, it's going to be that contrast ratio, and that's just always going to be a thing with IPS panels. It's not going to have deep blacks like a VA or an OLED, but it does get plenty bright. I know it's only 300 nits, but for SDR content and the monitor that large, it looks totally fine to me. I did mess around with HDR on it a little bit. I ran Forza Horizon 4 in HDR and it looked pretty good. It's not mind-blowing though, and the HDR implementation is not going to be anything like the level of a OLED TV or a monitor with full array local dimming and a higher peak brightness. It technically supports HDR, but I think SDR is going to give you the best experience with this monitor. That said, HDR gaming in Windows is still in a pretty weird place, and a lot of stuff doesn't support it, and a lot of stuff that does support it you have to fiddle with a lot, or it really doesn't make that much of a difference to the gameplay anyway. So if you don't want to mess with it, and you just want to leave your games in SDR, but you want that 4K high refresh rate experience, this is totally going to deliver on it for you. The size is also really good, 28 inches. It's not that much bigger than a 27-inch monitor, which is a good size. The 28 might let you see a little bit more detail, but it's not going to be super huge like you got a 48-inch OLED on your desk or something like that. It's definitely more manageable size, and I think it's a kind of a good all-arounder size. This unit I picked up, it has pretty good picture uniformity, but in dark areas it does have a little bit of backlight bleed in the lower right corner that I noticed. It looks worse in this picture than it does in practice. I took this in a really dark room, but it kind of shows you what I'm talking about. The OSD menu is pretty good. They have a little nub on the back, kind of like an Asus monitor or something that you use to navigate it, and I like that more than having the, dedicated chiclet buttons underneath. I can't give you any super detailed color information on it. I don't own a colorimeter or something like that to test with, but it looks really good in person. I work on a Mac. I'm a graphic designer, so I have a pretty decent eye for color, and color-wise, it's really good. I did turn the reds down a little bit from the stock settings on mine. If there was any complaints about the image, it would just be that contrast level, and that's just always going to be a thing with an IPS monitor that doesn't have local dimming. Strangely enough, in the OSD there is an option for local dimming, but turning it on seems to make the picture look worse, so you can play with that if you want to, but I would just suggest leaving it off. So yeah, I just wanted to do a quick video on this. It came out, it looks really affordable, and it's a pretty decent monitor, but I didn't see a lot of other videos about it on YouTube yet, so I wanted to get something out so you could check it out. If you are in the market for a 4K high refresh monitor and you want something that's not going to blow the bank and you're okay with living the SDR life, I think that you'll be totally happy picking this up, and it should be good for gaming on PS5 or PC for quite a while now. Alright, well that's the Gigabyte M28U. Thanks for watching along. Give this video a like if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you in the next video.